You have never seen the other side of the moon. Neither has anyone you've ever met. Neither did anybody at all, for the entire history of our species until 1959. Every human being who has ever stood on this planet and looked up has seen the same face. 28 people have seen the far side with their own eyes. 24 of them in the late 60s and early 70s. The other 4 only recently. All of them behind the moon at the time, out of radio contact with everyone they had ever known. Which is a strange way to be the only witnesses to anything. So the moon doesn't spin. That's the obvious answer. It's also wrong. The moon spins, and the reason you only ever get one face is that something did this to it. Something that is, right now, doing the same thing to you. Start with why the wrong answer feels so right. Hold a ball in front of you. Keep the same painted dot facing your chest and walk a circle around a friend. From where they're standing, you never turned. From above, you turned completely once. That's the whole trick, and it's why nobody believes it the first time. 2 things I should get out of the way. The far side isn't the dark side. It's in full sunlight for 2 weeks out of every 4, exactly like the side you can see, and the name stuck anyway. And you don't get precisely half. The moon rocks very slightly as it goes, a bit ahead, a bit behind, a bit above. So over a full cycle, you can peek round the edges. Total, from Earth, across all of history, about 59%. That's the honest number. It still leaves a permanent 41% of another world that nobody had ever laid eyes on. So measure it. The moon takes 27.32 days to go once around the Earth. The moon takes 27.32 days to turn once on its axis. Same number. Not close. The same number, as far down as we can measure it. And we can measure it absurdly well, because we left mirrors up there and we bounce lasers off them. That's why the face never changes. It isn't that the moon is still. It's that the moon turns at exactly the speed required to keep one side pointed at us, forever, without ever being told to. Like and subscribe if this is your kind of thing. The sky doing something strange, or your own body doing something strange, with a real answer underneath it. 2 numbers that match to 4 decimal places is not a fact. It's a question. So let's be generous and say it's a coincidence. The moon could have ended up with any spin at all. 8 hours, 9 days, backwards. Out of everything it could have been doing, it's doing the one thing that hides half of itself from us permanently. And the match isn't rough. If the moon's spin were off by even 1%, a few hours over a month, the face would drift, and inside a decade, you'd have watched the entire surface turn past you like a slow globe. Every civilization that ever named the patterns up there would have named something different. That is how narrow the target is. Fine. Chance. Weird things happen, and somebody has to win the raffle. Then look at Jupiter. Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto, all 4 of the big ones, all locked, all showing Jupiter one face. Titan does it to Saturn. So does Rhea and Iapetus and Dione. Nearly every large moon in the solar system is doing the same thing. That's not a raffle, that's a rule. Fine, moons then. Maybe it's just something small things do around big things. Mercury is a planet. Mercury turns 3 times for every 2 trips around the sun, and it is stuck there, held in place by the same effect that pinned our moon, just at a different ratio. And out past Neptune, Pluto and Charon have gone all the way. They're locked to each other. Each one hangs motionless in the other's sky. Neither of them ever sees the far side of the other. So it isn't moons, it's gravity, doing what gravity does when you give it long enough. Here's the mechanism, and it's smaller than you'd expect. The moon pulls harder on the near side of the Earth than on the far side, because the near side is closer. That difference stretches us. Our oceans bulge out toward the moon. That's the tide, and you already knew that part. What you probably didn't know is where the bulge sits. The Earth spins underneath its own tidal bulge and drags it forwards, so the bulge runs slightly ahead of the Moon instead of pointing straight at it. It's out of position by a few degrees. That's it. That's the entire engine. That misplaced lump of ocean has mass, and mass pulls. It tugs the Moon forward along its orbit, which flings the Moon very slowly outward, 3.8 centimeters a year, which we know because of those mirrors. And the Moon tugs back on the bulge against the Earth's spin, breaking us. Billions of years ago, the Earth did exactly this to the Moon, harder, because the Moon is small and we're not. The Moon isn't solid all the way through in the way that matters here. The Earth's pull raised a bulge in the rock of the Moon itself, dragged it out of position by the Moon's own spin, and then hauled back on it. Rock grinding against rock at a scale you can't picture for as long as it took. It took, as far as anyone can model it, a few tens of millions of years, which sounds enormous and, in this story, is the blink of an eye.
Then there was nothing left to grind. The bulge lined up, the tugging stopped pulling sideways, and the Moon settled into the only position where the forces cancel. One face toward us. It has been sitting there like that ever since, and it will not come loose. And it never switched off. It's still running. It's running on us now. Your day is getting longer while you listen to this. Not fast, about 1.7 milliseconds per century, which is nothing, and which is also the most relentless thing I know about. It has never once stopped, and it was already running before there were oceans to bulge. Add it up, and it stops being nothing. Some corals lay down a band a day, and a thicker one each year, so you can count the days in a prehistoric year the way you count rings in a tree. 400 million years ago, a year had about 400 days in it. The day was around 22 hours long. Nothing about the Earth's orbit changed. The Earth was just spinning faster, and the Moon has been putting the brakes on ever since. Which means every animal that has ever lived did it on a shorter day than yours, and the people who worked out how to survive the dark were working shorter nights than yours. I've got a video about what they actually did with those hours, if you want it. They weren't asleep for all of it. Nobody was. Follow the brakes all the way to the end, and you get somewhere genuinely strange. Eventually, the Earth slows until it too turns once per orbit. One face pointed at the Moon permanently. Half the planet would never see the Moon again. The other half would never lose sight of it. It takes about 50 billion years. The Sun has roughly 5 billion left. So it doesn't happen. The one grand ending this mechanism is building toward is a thing the solar system will not stay alive long enough to watch. We're a tenth of the way into a process that gets canceled. For all of human history, that far side was the one place nobody could go and nobody could look. Every astronomer who ever lived, every telescope ever built, every myth about the Moon, all of it about one hemisphere. The other one was a rumor. 7th of October, 1959. A camera the size of a suitcase, 3 days out from home, swings around the back of the Moon and takes 29 photographs in 40 minutes. It develops the film on board because there is no other way. Then it spends days radioing the pictures back, line by line, badly. They are grainy. They are barely legible. They are the first images of a place that had been hidden from every living thing on Earth since there were living things on Earth. And there was almost nothing there. No great dark seas. The near side is about a third covered in those wide dark plains. The far side is about 1%. It's just craters all the way across, older and rougher and more crowded. The half of the Moon we never got to see,
turned out to be the boring half. Which I love, honestly. The mystery of the age, and the answer was more rocks. Except it isn't nothing, that difference. It's the same story again. Those dark plains are old lava that welled up through the crust and flooded the low ground. On the far side, the crust is thicker, considerably thicker. Not enough lava ever got through. And the best idea anyone has for why one side of a small round world ended up with a thicker shell than the other is that the two sides were baked differently while the moon was young, by the heat of a molten earth hanging in its sky, always in the same place because it was already locked. The two halves look different because of the thing that keeps you from seeing one of them, and that's the part I'd keep. That surface was unknowable for 200,000 years of people looking up at it and wondering. Then it took about 3 days. 9 years after that, 3 people flew behind it and looked at it through a window. Whatever you think is permanently out of reach right now, hold that number in your head. 200,000 years, then 3 days. The moon is going to keep drifting away from us, a few centimeters a year, and the eclipses will stop fitting eventually. That's a different problem, and it's a stranger one than this.